Hello there everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I'm going to talk about Maul Shadow Lord. This is obviously a brand new Star Wars animated TV series which I absolutely adore. Obviously a few episodes have been released at the time of the recording and I just want to talk about it and just want to talk about the things that I like, the things that connect to other stories in the Star Wars franchise and the Star Wars history, and how this will play out in the future or in the past. I mean, yes, the Star Wars timeline is a bit confusing because sometimes TV shows or movies release and afterwards other things release which are actually prequels of it. It's kind of interesting. Same goes for like the original Star Wars movies. Obviously, we had 4, 5, 6, and afterwards we had 1, 2, 3, which obviously the Star Wars timeline works kind of confusing sometimes. But anyhow, we have a few major, I suppose, points that I need to talk about. So obviously we have the fall of the Jedi, the prequels and the Clone Wars, right? It is from the 32 to 19 BBY, and BBY means the battle before Yavin, or the battle for Yavin, I suppose. So there we go. The battle for Yavin is what happened in the fourth movie, which is like where this timeline begins. It's a bit confusing, but that's how fans actually, connect the dots between the Star Wars franchise projects. So there's no like year 1 or year 2. It's just like BBY is our way how to, I suppose, put everything into place. So obviously we had the Phantom Menace, right? The discovery of Anakin Skywalker, and obviously this is where Darth Maul was revealed. He fights Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan is bisected and presumed dead. Obviously, that is not the case because he comes back in the Clone Wars. So obviously in Attack of the Clones, Separatist crisis, the Clone Army revealed, and the Clone Wars begins. Then we have the entire TV show of the Clone Wars, and in that show we have the return of Darth Maul, which afterwards becomes a major figure in the Star Wars universe and in the underworld of the Star Wars, universe. So there we go. So in the Clone Wars, Maul returns with cybernetic legs, builds a criminal empire, aka the Shadow Collective, known as the Shadow Collective, and takes Mandalore, clashes with Sidious, Ahsoka Tano, and obviously escapes into the darkness, into the underworld. So there we go. And we have Revenge of the Sith, which obviously deals with the fall of the Republic, Order 66, the birth of the Empire, and Anakin becomes Darth Vader, with obviously Sidious becoming his master. So there we go. The Reign of the Empire, which obviously goes from 19 to 5 BBY. The Bad Batch, Solo, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor, Rebels all overlap in the same period. You have the early rebellion, the Inquisitors, Maul's final years, obviously in Rebels. He gets killed off by Obi-Wan. But there are a few theories online already, which obviously I think, I suppose tell that Maul actually survived that battle, but I'm not quite sure. I don't think he survived it because he was killed off. But now, because everyone is so hyped about Maul Shadowlord, they would like to see him return. But yeah, sometimes you see the death of someone before the entire history or the story of them. So yeah, okay, so there we go. Obviously, in 0 BBY, we have Rogue One and A New Hope, the theft of the Death Star plans and destruction of the first Death Star. So there we go. Very cool, right? So that's pretty much it. That is what I want to talk about, and that's obviously the little history that I wanted to discuss. So where does Darth Maul fit in all in this, I suppose, period, right, that I just talked about? Let's see here. Early life and training. His birth and origin, born on Dathomir, obviously dates vary, roughly 54 or 40 BBY in a range of different sources. A Zabrak taken by Darth Sidious and trained as a Sith assassin. Obviously, the pre-Phantom Menace period operates in the shadows, hunting Jedi and the enemies of Sidious. Legends novel, obviously Darth Maul, Shadow Hunter, explores this period. Legends, but often spiritually compatible with canon Maul. This is also what Dave Filoni tries to do. He tries to make something from the Legends compatible with something from the canon lore. So, for example, Davin, the brand new Twi'lek Jedi introduced a Maul Shadowlord, is, I guess, derived from Darth Talon, which is actually also the apprentice of Darth Maul. And I really like Dave Filoni, for doing that, because he gives us an opportunity to see, Legends characters and Legends uh, stories come into the canon Star Wars universe, which is really cool. Obviously, Star Wars is owned by Disney, and Disney sometimes make bad decisions, but as long as Dave Filoni is head executive officer or creative officer of Lucasfilm, I think that will be absolutely fantastic for the upcoming stories. And obviously, Dave Filoni was, I suppose, the Padawan of George Lucas, so he knows a lot of different things about the history and the lore and the characters. And I mean, yeah, he pretty much made almost every animated show. He made Rebels, he made Clone Wars, he made The Mandalorian as well with Jon Favreau. And I just love how things connect in a way. Sometimes fans are a bit not eager to see returning characters, like for example Barriss Offee or Darth Maul return in some kind of animated form. But that's okay. Oh, obviously I don't mind because they're all beloved characters, and there are people who love those characters and fans of the characters. And yes, I get it that Dave Filoni might be, using so much from his work already and putting it back into like a return or like a sequel or whatever, like Ahsoka. Everyone, some people don't really like the Ahsoka show because it delves into like the Star Wars Rebels lore and the Clone Wars lore, and it's like nostalgia bait. Yes, I do get that, but I think some stories need to be told in a way for us to be entertained. So yeah, I think Ahsoka, she's my favorite character, so I don't really mind having a series of her. But there we go. Obviously, with this brand new Legends character, Darth Talon, being introduced, I suppose, in MAULSHADOWLORD with Devon, I suppose. Will Maul actually train her to become his next apprentice? Obviously, kind of linking back to Darth Talon and Darth Maul, and which actually originally were the villains of the sequel stories that George Lucas had in mind. I think Dave Filoni actually has the same ideas, maybe. Like I said, this could all connect in a way, somehow, somewhere. Maybe, for example, let's see here, the Mandalorian Grogu film releases in cinemas this May. I'm really excited for it because Star Wars is back on the big screen and I'm absolutely stoked. So maybe with that film, it can introduce new underworld factions, right, and underworld characters. And because MAULSHADOWLORD is also airing at the same time, Devon could be in the future of the movies. Maybe she could be like together with Maul and obviously Darth Maul and Darth Talon, or Devon, I suppose, could be the next villains of the Heir to the Empire movies, with Thrawn also being attached. I think that could be a really cool and interesting story that they could tell. I think that could all connect in a way, and I think Dave Filoni has an idea where he could connect a bit of every story introduced the last couple of years. And I think, yeah, that could be really cool, in my opinion. I would love to see it, because like I said, George Lucas had that originally planned for Darth Maul and Darth Talon to be the sequel villains, but obviously that didn't happen, and Disney moved on with Palpatine and Snoke and all that bullshit, I guess. But it could be really cool to see Darth Talon and Darth Maul being, like I said, together with Thrawn, the villains of the Heir to the Empire film, or films. Maybe it could be a trilogy or a duology, or just one film. I would be happy with that as well. So yeah, there is a long way to go till then, but it could be possible, right? Like I said, obviously Darth Maul, his return and madness with the Shadow Collective, found by his brother Savage Opress, restored by Mother Talzin. He came back in the Clone Wars. Maul built the Shadow Collective, a criminal alliance of Death Watch, Black Sun, Pike Syndicate, and obviously Crimson Dawn. He seizes Mandalore, installs a puppet government, and becomes the de facto Dark Shadow Lord of the Underworld and Mandalore. Sidious intervenes, defeats Maul, kills Savage Opress, his brother, but keeps Maul alive for his own purposes. So there we go. Son of Dathomir Legends, but based on canon scripts, Maul escapes Sidious, clashes with General Grievous and Dooku, and returns to Dathomir. Night Sisters are nearly wiped out, Maul's power base is shattered, but he survives. Obviously, Star Wars Rebels, Maul is broken, obsessive figure seeking power and revenge. Manipulates Ezra Bridger, uses the holocron, and discovers that Obi-Wan is a Tatooine. Maul confronts Obi-Wan on Tatooine. Obi-Wan kills him swiftly. Maul dies believing the Chosen One, Luke, will destroy the Sith, twisted but almost hopeful. So there you go. But obviously, Darth Maul is the Shadow Hunter, or the Shadow Lord, I suppose. Maul is the Shadow Lord of the Underworld via the Shadow Collective and Mandalore. is interesting. Point-to-point analysis of the Darth Maul's story, I suppose. So Maul's hypothetical interpretive identity as a fully independent Dark Lord, no longer Sidious's apprentice, ruling from the shadows and obviously corrupting his enemies. And I just love seeing that in the Shadow Lord series, how he actually intervenes with different crime syndicates and makes sure that he becomes the leader of them all. So there you go. I think that's a rather very interesting. So, obviously, like I said, George Lucas' original sequel trilogy drafts from 2012 included Darth Talon as the main Sith villain, acting as a Darth Vader-like dark-side enforcer, seducing, corrupting the next generation of Jedi. It could also be like, obviously, the villains of the brand new Rey Skywalker film could also be true, right? But I have no idea. Lucas described her as the new Vader of his sequels. Filoni is aware of this, and Talon's design is extremely popular. She is one of the most likely legend Sith to be recanonized. Davin from MAULSHADOWLORD, obviously, the fans want her to be Darth Talon, like I said. Since Davin is not an official, Sith yet, it's like a fun interpretation of like a Maul-trained dark acolyte, a successor to Maul's Shadow Collective ideology. She could also take over his Shadow Collective at some point too. A bridge between Maul's criminal empire and the future Sith resurgence. So there we go. In a Filoni-verse story, Davin could function as like a Maul-descended dark-side agent, trained in Maul's philosophy of rage, independence, and anti-Sidious rebellion, operating in the underworld of after Maul's death, acting as a recruiter or enforcer for a new dark-side faction. A narrative link between Maul and Talon, right? Davin could be the one who finds, trains, or awakens Talon, or could become Talon at some point too. She could get like tattoos all over her body, could be really cool, but obviously that is still very much so for in the future. Right now, on season 1, she's just a Jedi trying to be, in hiding from the Empire, and Maul tries to, win her over to the dark side of the Force. So obviously, she could be the next Shadow Lord successor. Maybe Shadow Lord, MAULSHADOWLORD, is derived from, okay, maybe Davon can be the next Shadow Lord. But obviously how Maul, Talon, and Davin and Thrawn could all be villains in a Filoni Heir to the Empire film, right? Filoni's movie is described as the Mandoverse crossover event and is heavily inspired by Heir to the Empire. Thrawn is already confirmed as the main antagonist, but Filoni loves multi-layered villain structures. So there you go. Thrawn could be like the strategic villain, the heir to the Imperial Remnant, the military genius, the public face of the thread, the one trying to rebuild order throughout the galaxy. This matches both Legends Throne and Filoni's version. So there you go. Maul's legacy, the shadow villain. Even though Maul is dead, his influence can still be a major force afterwards. Right, he died in the Star Wars Rebels, but maybe Davin can be the next, I suppose, Darth in that brand new picture or movie, I suppose. So there you go. Like, she could be like a Sith successor, right? Like Lucas originally intended. A dark side seducer targeting Ezra, Sabine, or even Luke's early students. A counterbalance to Ahsoka maybe, and a new generation Dark Warrior to replace Vader. I think this fits perfectly into like a post-sequel era. Or you have the sequels, right? People grew up with them. It's time for a brand new villain. And maybe she can be one of those villains as well. So she's like the bridge villain, right? The connective tissue between Maul's legacy and obviously the brand new empire, or I suppose the Imperial remnants and the First Order maybe even. So there you go. And yeah, I think that could be really cool as well. You have a couple of characters, like obviously Ahsoka versus Talon could be really cool. Light versus Dark, Apprentice of Anakin versus the Apprentice of a Maul-descended Sith. That could be very tough, not going to lie. That could be awesome to see. Ahsoka's compassion versus Talon's seduction. A duo Filoni would absolutely stage. Or Ezra versus Davin, or Sabine versus Davin could also be cool. Or Luke versus Davin as well. Because we know that Luke trains young students, during the time of the First Order, right? Ben Solo is obviously one of his students as well. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm really excited for this brand new series. I can't wait to see where this will go in the future with the season 2. And obviously, how the story will all connect in a way. I love Star Wars. I love just talking about it, and I just appreciate the work and the effort they put into creating these absolutely awesome stories. I think Darth Maul might actually become one of my favorite villains now. I'm not quite sure. I've been really thinking about it. I'm thinking about it lately, and I just think that Darth Maul is such an interesting character, and I just hope he has so much more to do in the future of the Star Wars universe. But alright, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will check you later. Goodbye.
Let us have our revenge.
We're not gonna take out the whole Empire.